Meta just told Nvidia, it's not you, it's me. Except it's absolutely Nvidia. It's 100% Nvidia. Because Mark Zuckerberg looked at his Nvidia bill this year and apparently felt the same rage you feel when you check your phone plan and realize you're still paying for a data add-on from 2019. So Meta did what any trillion-dollar company does when it's tired of renting. It decided to build its own house, its own chip house. Codename Iris. Yes, Iris. Not a Terminator reference. Not a codename ripped from a Bond villain's lair. Just Iris. Sounds like your aunt's Facebook friend who shares 15 conspiracy theories a day. Fitting, honestly, since this chip's entire job is to keep the Facebook and Instagram algorithm machine fed. Let's get into it. Because this is bigger than a chip. This is Meta quietly declaring war on the entire just rent Nvidia GPUs forever business model. Grab a seat, this one's spicy. Chapter 1. The Confession Nobody Wanted to Make. Here's the setup. An internal Meta memo leaked to Reuters because nothing says confidential corporate strategy like it being read by 300 million people 48 hours later. The memo confirms Meta will start manufacturing its in-house AI chip Iris starting in September. Not someday, not in the roadmap. September, as in basically tomorrow in corporate timeline years. And the real gut punch buried in that memo? Meta straight up admitted that adopting the latest Nvidia GPUs at a company its size has been, quote, a heavy lift. And it has cost the company time. Translation: even Meta, a company that can casually spend more on data centers than some countries spend on their military, is struggling to keep up with Nvidia's supply chain circus. Imagine being so big that even you can't get seated at the popular restaurant. That's Meta right now, standing outside Nvidia's kitchen, waiting for a table while its own AI ambitions are doing jumping jacks in the parking lot. So Meta said, fine, we'll cook our own food. Iris is the pot they're cooking it in. Chapter 2. What Iris actually is, minus the corporate fluff. Iris isn't some rogue side project. It's part of Meta's MTIA program, which stands for Meta Training and Inference Accelerators. A name so aggressively boring it could cure insomnia. But don't let the name fool you. This has been Meta's slow-motion mission for over half a decade to build its own AI silicon instead of being Nvidia's most loyal customer. And for most of that half-decade, this project has flopped around like a fish that jumped out of its tank. Delayed, reworked, quietly shelved. Basically Meta's Cyberpunk 2077 launch, except with more GPUs and fewer bugs to laugh at. But apparently something changed. The memo says Iris cleared its testing phase in about 6 weeks, with no major issues found. 6 weeks. No drama. For a chip project that has historically had more false starts than a bad action movie franchise, that is suspiciously smooth sailing. Meta isn't building this alone, by the way. It's working with Broadcom to help design the chip. And it's leaning on Taiwan's semiconductor manufacturing company, better known as TSMC, to actually manufacture the thing. So think of it like Meta drew the blueprint, Broadcom double-checked the math, and TSMC is the one actually building the house. A very expensive, very silicon-based house. Chapter 3. Wait, is this replacing Nvidia? Short answer, no. Slightly longer answer, also no. But Nvidia should still be a little nervous. Iris is designed to sit next to Meta's existing pile of Nvidia and AMD GPUs, not replace them. Think of it less like breaking up with Nvidia and more like Meta, quietly adding a second partner nobody asked about. Nvidia's still the primary. Iris is just there to help carry the load, so Meta isn't fully dependent on one supplier who can raise prices or slow shipments whenever they feel like it. It's less divorce and more we're seeing other chips. And here's the twist that should make Nvidia's shareholders sweat a little. Meta already unveiled Iris publicly back in March, alongside 3 other AI processors, using its dry technical code name instead of the cute one. Which means this isn't a one-and-done chip drop. Meta plans to release a new chip generation roughly every 6 months through 2027. For context, most chip companies release new hardware every year or longer. Meta wants to move at nearly double that speed. That's not a side hustle. That's a full production pipeline aimed directly at reducing how much of its AI empire runs on someone else's hardware. Chapter 4. The numbers that make your wallet cry. Let's talk scale, because this is where things go from interesting tech news to why does a single company need this much electricity? Meta plans to deploy 7 gigawatts of computing infrastructure this year. Next year, it wants to double that to 14 gigawatts. 14 gigawatts is the kind of number that starts sounding less like a tech spec and more like something you'd see attached to a small nation's power grid. And to fuel this AI hardware buffet, Meta is expected to spend as much as $145 billion on AI infrastructure this year alone. $145 billion. That's not a chip budget. That's a small economy's GDP being funneled directly into server racks and cooling systems. Meta also isn't just winging the supply chain this time. The memo reportedly shows Meta has locked in extended supply deals for memory chips from Samsung, flash storage from SanDisk, and fiber optic networking gear from Sumitomo Electric. Translation: Meta got tired of standing in line for parts and decided to just buy the whole line. This is a company building its own factory, securing its own raw materials, and designing its own engine. Also, it never again has to wait politely for Nvidia to have stock available. Chapter 5. Why everyone suddenly wants to own hardware. Here's the part that actually matters for the entire AI industry, not just Meta's balance sheet. Every major AI player right now is racing to build its own custom silicon instead of fully depending on Nvidia. Google has its TPU chips. Amazon has Trainium and Inferentia. And now Meta is stepping fully into that lane with Iris. This isn't a coincidence. It's a pattern. The biggest companies in AI have all quietly reached the same conclusion at roughly the same time. Renting compute from one dominant vendor is a great business model for that vendor and a genuinely uncomfortable position for everyone else. Nvidia built an empire by being the only real option in town. But when your biggest customers start building their own kitchens instead of ordering delivery every night, that's not a small shift. That's the beginning of a very expensive game of hardware independence. Meta isn't doing this because Iris chips are secretly better than Nvidia's best GPUs. They're probably not. Not yet. Meta is doing this because owning even a slice of your own compute pipeline means you're not fully at the mercy of someone else's pricing, someone else's shipping delays, and someone else's priorities. Chapter 6. So what happens next? If Iris production genuinely starts in September and stays on schedule, Meta gets its first real taste of controlling a meaningful chunk of its own AI hardware destiny. Combine that with the jump toward 14 gigawatts of computing power next year, and Meta isn't just trying to catch up in the AI race. It's trying to build its own private highway so it never gets stuck in anyone else's traffic again. Will Nvidia lose sleep over one custom chip from one social media company? Not immediately. But when Google, Amazon, and now Meta are all quietly building their own silicon at the same time, that's not 3 isolated projects. That's an entire industry, politely, expensively, and very deliberately moving toward the exit door of total Nvidia dependence. And somewhere in Menlo Park, an engineer is probably staring at a chip labeled Iris, thinking, please just work, so we never have to explain another 6-week delay to Mark again. That's the story. Meta wants its own silicon. Meta wants its own power grid. And Meta really wants to stop being Nvidia's most dependent customer. If you enjoyed watching a trillion-dollar company quietly admit it's tired of waiting in line for GPUs, hit subscribe because this AI hardware arms race is just getting started. And Neural Pulse AI will be here for every awkward, expensive chapter of it.